Hello to our parents and families joining us today. My name is Lexi McCarthy, and I'm the Director of Parent and Family Relations here at West Chester University. Welcome to our Chapter 2 chat. This chat is the first in our Summer Common Reading series, which we will discuss specific portions of Marjorie Savage's You're on Your Own, but I'm Here If You Need Me. And we'll end the summer with an author chat with Marjorie Savage herself. Stay tuned for more details on that. Today, I'm excited to have the chair of our RAM-FAM Advisory Council with us, George Guido, with me to discuss Chapter 2, which is the Summer of Change. George, I'm going to ask you to please introduce yourself, share a little bit about the Advisory Council, and something you believe makes West Chester special.
Thanks, Lexi. So, George Guido, I am a PA resident, and actually I don't live far from the university. Being part of the RAM-FAM Council has really been a great opportunity because it's a group of parents. We're not, nothing special about us other than the fact that we have students at the university, and we share the passion for making sure we create a really good experience for them and a really good environment. So we are kind of a conduit for communication between what's happening with the students and the school and parents like you, so that we can make sure the right information is being shared.
And something that you think makes West Chester special?
To me, it's being part of the borough. It's being part of that community. There's a sense of energy every time I'm on campus. Every time when I'm at the borough, I feel the college. When I'm at the college, I feel the borough. So it's just a really comfortable, safe, and vibrant community feeling.
Oh, I totally agree. I love the borough, and I think we're really lucky to be in such a cool college town that doesn't feel like a college town necessarily. So we are blessed indeed. Thanks for that introduction. Let's start digging into the chapter. So in Chapter 2, Savage discusses all the changes that happen in a family during the summer before college. I prepared a few questions. We certainly know that your experience is not generalizable to all families, but I think you have a lot of nuggets that you could share that could help families in this summer of change. Should we get started?
Sure.
Okay, so my first question is, what practical skills were really important for you to teach your student over the summer before they began college, or perhaps leading up to it before that summer?
Well, Lexi, as you know, I've had to do this 3 times now. My West Chester student is my third. So I've gotten a little better every summer. And let me say, it hasn't gone without some lessons learned. And I think you're right. It isn't a one-size-fits-all experience over the summer for everyone's different. But what was consistent across all 3 of those summers before college for me was that, my students were busy. They were running around. They were, I've always felt they were away too much, but at the end of the day, they were doing what they were supposed to do, which is kind of getting ready to be out there in the real world. So I will say the last thing they wanted to do was to sit down with me and talk practical, life lessons about going to college. So I guess the advice or the lesson I've learned in those experiences is you have to it's got to kind of be bite-sized chunks, and it has to be, kind of discussions that are done at a time when it's comfortable and it's not forced. If it's forced, they're going to shut it down. They're stressed out to begin with. They are, they're like potentially blocking you out if you're doing it at the wrong time. So what I would do is I would look for opportunities as we spend family time together just to talk about what's happening, talk about the experience, talk about things like, okay, you've got all the paperwork, when's orientation, empowering them to think about all the paperwork and process stuff they need to pay attention to, because I reminded them on a regular basis, this is your experience, not mine. I'm going to be there for you, but you got to be able to tell me dates, times, when the forms need to be filled out, when I need to be there to help you move in. Once we kind of got that situated, we thought about things like banking and finance and budget, talking to them a little bit about the realities of how to manage, especially in a borough, right? You've got these great opportunities to spend all kinds of money at all these great restaurants. You also have all these great restaurants at school, and you have all these great programs. So managing budget was an important piece of the practical skill building. We also talked about things like, let me think, doing laundry. That Unfortunately, most of my children have been spoiled to not have to do it on their own all the time, and that's actually something that we got to keep track of. I think for each of them, we also talked a little bit about the public transportation. None of them had cars when they started, so we had to think about how you're going to get around. You know, is it going to be Uber? Is it a bus? I had one at Pittsburgh and totally used the public transportation system for everything. And I think Westchester has a lot of great options. The other practical stuff was really around thinking through the realities of some of the situations they may face, and especially with three daughters, talking about how to be independent but also be safe, how to be engaged and be social, but how to know when to kind of step back because it could be a risky situation. We also talked about things like, let's look up and put a list of the healthcare providers that, we know they've got a great health center and then great health resources on campus, but also if you need a dentist, if you need a quick urgent care, let's get you a list of that stuff so that let's make sure it's under our coverage. Here's your health insurance card, here's how you use it. The other, I guess the last piece is, let's see, insurance. There's so many of those little things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Healthcare, understanding all the campus resources, because you guys have so many resources they can tap into. Taking the time to look online, get it situated, and I think combined, those would take place in slow little bites across the summer.
That's great. I think you make some really good points, particularly the pieces about the right time and the right place to have those conversations. And we will talk to colleagues throughout the summer who will give advice on how to have those conversations too. A lot of talking about car ride conversations where things might be a little bit less pressurized. Did you have any questions though? I wanted to ask about academics. Like, did you have any conversations about what your expectations were as a family in that realm?
I mean, what again, the bite-sized mentality is such a core theme in everything we experience, because, the first focus was, the focus of the major and the classes, right? I mean, the stress of that. And for each of those situations that we found ourselves in, we were thought partners with them on how to make sure they got what they needed. And when they didn't, a resource to help them understand that, look, it's only like, get there and then do what you got to do with what you have laid out. And then you can make an adjustment if you need to. It's not all set in stone. Once you get there, my daughter had to start in gen ed and then move into her teaching program, which to her was a little stressful, but once she talked to enough people and we went to the orientation and we got to talk to a couple of other folks who were doing the same thing, she was fine with it. And then she ended up making the adjustment on her own. When it came to the expectations and the classwork and all that, we were pretty blessed in that all of them were fairly disciplined in high school, and we trusted that they would be disciplined there. But we also reminded them that we have financial aid, we have other, our resources are stressed and stretched, and our expectation is that they're going to do everything they can to do well in their classes. But a bad grade doesn't mean that you're not smart or it's, you failed. We've all experienced it. It just means you're going to need some extra help. And if you do, reach out. There are resources on campus. We have resources that we know from the community, older graduated students who could help. So the message we tried to make sure we sent was, we're not expecting perfect. We're not expecting a straight A student, but great. You should achieve, you should desire that. But if you run into some difficulties, there are advisors there to talk to. There are all kinds of resources that they offer. And then, just stay in touch with us. And if we don't want you to feel overwhelmed that you're not doing well, as long as you're trying. Right. And I think that message worked. We've had great grades and we've had bad grades, but they always seem to have balanced out over the end, because they're at college because they want to do well. They're not there because they want to, they want to get bad grades. So when they do, most times they'll step it up.
Yeah, great advice, George. I'm going to throw you a softball now because you just did so much heavy lifting. But talk about the packing plan and some of the must-haves. I think that there's such a craze around buying the right things. Certainly that's not the priority, but were there some things or the packing plan, maybe some of that independence you talked about, that you sort of manage some of that buying craze?
Yeah. Again, going from the lessons learned from the first student to the third student. The first one was a U-Haul. The last one was the back of my Tahoe, because we realized that you really don't need that much. The dorm is pretty, all of them started in the dorm. All of them started with new roommates that they hadn't met before, but because of the Facebook rooms and the Twitter, the online connections.
Social media, yep.
Media. That's what I'm trying. Do I sound old when I say that?
No.
So because of those connections, each one of my students connected with their incoming roommate, and they just worked out, kind of divided and conquered on what they might need. For one situation, we needed a refrigerator. For the other, it was already in the dorm. We had Wi-Fi was already provided, so we didn't need to worry about that. And then we went each time with the mentality that if we don't have it there's a Walgreens up the road. There's plenty of places right near the university where if I need to run, I can go do that. But little things like we had a mattress topper for a foam topper for every bed, because they're decent beds, but the kids like the extra cushion. The dividers, things that in a dorm room, my students could separate their stuff from the others that would fit under the bed, and that could be there, for the full term. Things like little reading lamps for the bed. It's great light overall, but sometimes just a special little things like that. Obviously the practical stuff, the seasonal clothes they switch, and
don't need the winter jacket in August.
No, right. They're just not in the room. First off, you got to balance the fact that they have to be pretty good at managing space. I'm trying to think if there's anything else critical. Each time we went, we noticed little things like, we had to run out and get an extension cord because we forgot enough hangers. You got to bring the hangers because obviously you want to get as much stuff into the closet as possible. The other thing that we did with each student, and I think it really helped them because I noticed that it stayed on the wall for the full year, and that was we got them. I forget the name of the framing type, but they were little clips that could hold pictures, and they went up on the wall, and they put it right over the bed, and it was, unfortunately, it wasn't just all of me, but it was all of our family, all the friends, and probably 10, 15 pictures, and it just felt. I think all of them put little lights. You can buy the little lights, and they put them around the wall. And it was just a nice way for them to go to bed and wake up, kind of being reminded of the whole community of people that are rooting for them.
I love that, and none of that's incredibly expensive. The mattress topper, you don't need to get the top of the line. It's something to make things a little more comfortable. And those pictures from home, I think, really do make a difference, particularly in this digital world, right? To remind the students of the village behind them. That's such great advice.
Yeah, and like with the division, divide and conquer, I know for my West Chester student, her roommate brought, I think, the shower curtain, and she brought the toiletries, and little things like that. They traded off. So
yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
So you've had your children leave the nest one at a time. How do you adjust to some of this family changing? Frustration? Has there been joy? Has there been fear? Talk a little bit about that family changing.
Well, what we did most often in those summers, in between all the running around and all the kind of, I don't want to say acting out, but some of the stress reactions that we got from our students who were dealing with so much before they went to college, we really tried to find small opportunities for family time and to get just some chill time with siblings and with friends, whatever, and to use those times just to talk about what's happening. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not talking about go away on vacation, do something fancy, but just backyard, a gathering around the grill and just, hey, it's exciting. Let's talk about what have you been thinking about? What's happening? And you find that other people can contribute to this empowerment and this positive feeling by talking it through. That's for the student. I think for us, with four kids, there was a sense of loss, but it's taken up by the reality that we have so many other things going on. But we learned, I think we learned the reality is you will feel a void. It's just there. You will miss them. You will feel hurt if they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is be independent and be strong and be confident and be active, because they're not going to have time for you like they did before. I had great relationships with all three of the students, and I felt that a little bit when they left. That boy, I don't want to put pressure on them to feel like they have to talk to me, because if they're doing well, they should be fine on their own. My wife and I would do things like just send little notes of, hope things are going well, love you, have a great day, no need to call me back, not anything that was pressure, but just let them know that we're there. And I think it really made a difference. And just recognizing that if they don't want to come home, or if they want to go and spend time with their roommate during the break or something, that at first I thought that was a personal insult, like, oh, they're out, they don't want to come back. But I realize now, having some, two students who've been several years out of college, they come back. And it's really good for them to be able to have that kind of independence. And it means you're doing a great job. But the void's there. You have to accept it. There's that feeling of missing and wanting to kind of hover a little bit. You got to fight those instincts if you set them up right when you get them there.
I think that's great advice. I really like the piece of like, yeah, it's hard, but they need to know you're okay so that they can have their experience and learn and grow and develop. So that's great advice.
I think that the overall piece that we talked about throughout with each child during the summer, and then once they got into school, was the reinforcing that we respect that they're going into an adult world. They may be prepared for most of it. They may not be. A lot of it's going to be learning on the fly, but that we will be there when they need us without judging, so we can encourage them to talk to us if they were in situations that were stressful, if they were having trouble with their grades, if they were having relationship problems. And there's nothing worse and nothing better than getting a phone call, at 1 o'clock in the morning, from your student saying, I just had a little argument with my roommate. I'm frustrated with this and with that, and they just want to talk. And, we learned to do a lot of listening and not a lot of preaching.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And it really transitions into my next question, which is, how did you manage some of your students' like doubts about college choice, major that might have happened that summer, but also in that first couple of weeks on campus?
Yeah, I think it's mostly just talking, or allowing them to talk things through.
Yeah.
That just being there. And most of the time when we run into those situations where there's been doubt, where there's been the need to try to fix something that they feel isn't right, they know the answers. They know how to do it. They're just not as confident, and they need to feel like what they're thinking and what they want to do is right. So we spent a lot of time, the good part is FaceTime, you can call, you can, as appropriate, you can stop in and have lunch in the borough if you can get into, and just talk about this stuff. So there were certain situations where, we would help them think through how to tap into their advisors, how to talk to their professors, especially given, the past year. There's been some unique circumstances over the past year, and making sure that they are tapping into the online resources, making sure that they're having that conversation with their advisor, talking to their classmates to find out if any other classmates are feeling the same thing, and maybe collectively. I had one situation with my oldest student where there was a challenge with getting into a class that was mandatory. And, we talked it through and, agreed that maybe she should reach out to some other friends. And she did. She found out that there were 6 or 7 other students that were having the same problem. They went to their advisor and they said, "Oh, we didn't realize that. Let's open that up. We got to open it up so you don't have to do it online." And she felt really empowered with that. And she did it all. I just kind of coached a little bit in the background. So I just think being there, being able to listen, let them talk it through, providing the advice in a way that doesn't sound like you're lecturing. Nowadays you can go online together and look at stuff if you have to. I mean, there's so many ways you can be a partner and not a parent partner, but not just a parent. We're trying to do it for them. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, and my last question was just about teaching your student how to self-advocate. And you just talked about that. Like doing some of that role playing is so important, right? Like what conversation might you have? Who can you contact? What resources are available? I think that's great advice.
And also we found reasons to reinforce the small wins that they had in the early days. Like, wow, what a smart thing. It was so great that you picked up the phone, or you don't pick up the phone anymore, that you went in, had that meeting, or you went online and connected, so that they start to feel a little more empowered that, I can do this. I got it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we're going to end all of our chapter chats this summer with a parting word of advice. So George, if you could share some wisdom related to our conversation or not with members of the RAM fam, what would you share?
I guess it's the theme throughout, as I've heard myself talk about all these questions, is really about the power of being a thought partner and a listener and available and a coach player coach when appropriate, because they really are in situations where if they're given the chance to be independent, if they're given enough confidence and given just a little bit of coaching about how to kind of stay in the right lane, I've been amazed at what I've seen them do that I kind of, quite honest, wasn't sure they could or would do. But so I had to fight that instinct to want to protect. I had to fight that instinct to want. I'm a control person, so I like being in. I had to just step out and say, you know what, I'm going to trust that you're going to do the right thing. And if you don't, you're going to have to manage the consequences. But I'm here if you need. And once or twice, or maybe even more, that's resulted in a failure. But they learn from it, and as long as it's not something that is too big of a failure, they'll move forward, and we've always been a resource to that. So, long answer, just be there, listen, and provide guidance when necessary.
I think that's such great advice, and really that ties into the whole book. Marjorie Savage's whole book is about being a guide from the side, being that mentor for a lifetime, and encouraging your students to really spread their wings. So, George, thank you so much. Your insight is incredibly useful and helpful. And I know that all families could benefit from even a nugget of what you had to share. So thanks so much. And thanks for being such a great support for the RAM fam.
Well, thank
you for oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Your department plays such a big role, and you play such a big role in helping to make this connection strong. We're very grateful.
Thanks, George.
Great.
And thank you to our viewers. If you have any additional questions, we are here to answer them and to connect with you. So feel free to contact the Office of Parent and Family Relations at parentfamilyrelations@wcupa.edu, and we'll be sure to answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you. Bye.